Alright, today we're going to talk about compound interest. It's going to be similar to Friday's notes, so let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, for these compounding questions, if you notice the formula is going to be the same. Our A is still our amount at the end. Our P is still our principal or our starting amount. Okay, R is going to be the interest rate, so the rate. N, now that's the thing that's going to change. Our N, okay, is the number of times we compound it in a year. So that's how many times we compound it. The key words that we're looking for is like if we compound it quarterly would be 4, semi-annually would be 2, monthly would be 12, okay? And then the last thing, it got cut off, but T is still our years or our number of time, okay? So they're very similar. The only thing that's really changing about these notes today is we're going to use this compounding because we're talking about account problems. Okay, in this first example, it says we deposited $5,000 in an account that compounds quarterly at a rate of 6%. How much will you have in the account after 9 years? Okay, so I like to set up the problem just like we did on these last work problems where I put the A, P, R, N, T on the side. Okay, and then let's just go through what it tells us. Okay, it wants to know how much is in the account at the end of it, so I know that I'm looking for my big A. Okay, P is our principal, or how much we start with. So if I look, I started with $5,000. So $5,000 is going to be my P. Okay. If I look at the rate, my rate is 6%. So that's going to be 0.06. Remember, we have to move the decimal to the left 2 spots. Our N, now this is where it's going to be different than the last notes. Our N is the number of times we compound it. So the thing I'm looking for is compounds quarterly. So quarterly means 4. So we're actually going to compound it 4 times. So my N is going to be 4. And then T is the amount of years or the time. So if we look at time, 9 years. So that means my T is going to be 9. Okay. Now let's go ahead and plug in our P, R, N, and T into our formula. Okay, go ahead and take a second to write that down. That's when I just plugged in the numbers. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that part in the parentheses. So I have A equals 5,000, and then I have 1.015, okay? And then 4 times 9 is going to be 36, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this in my calculator, 5,000 times, and then use those parentheses 1.015, and then do the power button to the 36th power, okay? And my answer becomes $8,545.697. We're talking about money here, so I would go rounding to 2 decimal places, but that would actually round me up to $8,545.70. And there's our answer. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about compounding quarterly, monthly, like a certain amount of times in a year, but then when we're talking about compounding continuously, we're going to use a different formula. Compounding continuously means that right away it's just continuously adding that interest to your account instead of every like month or every year or every 4 times a year. So if you notice, our A is still the amount after, our P is still our initial amount, R is still our rate, T is still our time. The only thing that's different is we have this E. Now E is not a variable, it actually stands for a number. Okay, if we did e to the first, so if you look at your calculator, if you see like a blue e to the x button, so you hit shift and then I think it's the ln key, and then do e to the first, you're actually going to get a number. You get 2.718. Okay, so that's e represents a number, just like we used to use pi as 3.14. E is going to represent a number on these problems when we see the words compounded continuously. Yeah, you'll hear us call this PERT, because it's P-E-R-T, just so that you're aware when you hear us say that, that's what we're talking about, is this formula. So suppose you deposited $3,000 in an account that pays 5% annual interest rate compounded continuously. How much will you have in the account after 4 years? Right away, me seeing compounded continuously, I'm going to go ahead and underline it. That word right away should create a little red flag and tell me right away that I'm going to use the PERT formula. Compounded continuously tells me that I'm going to use PERT, okay, to the RT. Okay, so let's go ahead and I like to set it up the same way we did. So A, P, we don't need E, R to the T. And then now let's go ahead and let's fill in what we know. Well, we don't know the ending amount. That's what we're trying to find. Our P is 3,000. Our R is 5%, which we need to write as a decimal, so 0.05. And then T is 4. Okay, let's go ahead and fill in those numbers and do our formula. So we have A equals 3,000. And then E to our R is 0.05 times T, which is 4. Okay. Now we can go ahead and just plug this in exactly how we see it on our calculator. Okay, so we get A to equal, okay, 3,000, and then E to the 0.05 times 4 gives me 3,664.21. So, and it makes sense if we look, we got more money. That's what we're aiming for when we're putting our money into an account, okay? We got more money, so we know it's reasonable. There's our answer.